You know, it's funny. A lot of people say that I'm a very visual storyteller. They'll read I can see it in my mind and all that. And my background, I have a degree in radio and television arts from Ryerson. My background is in visual storytelling. And yet I have never had an affinity for the graphic novel, the comic book, serial art, as they sometimes call it. There's something about it that just doesn't work for me.
Even when I've seen a movie that I thought was a pretty good movie that I know is based on a graphic novel, I don't feel the need to rush out and read that thing. I think because with me, my visual sense is quite divorced from my literary sense, so I keep going back from the image to the words, image to words, so it's kind of distracting for me.
I haven't really even ever picked one up, I'm afraid to say. But I know I should, because I can imagine that, you know, the mix of art and literature, which is, I guess, what it is, would be very interesting to me, but I just haven't as of yet.
I mean, I have friends who are just crazy about manga, just fascinated by manga, read huge quantities of it. I've never really connected with it. I think it's quite a valid art form. Not one that necessarily works for my particular kind of brain. But there's some graphic novels I like a lot. Joe Sacco.
When I read Joe Sacco's comic about the war in Bosnia, it was the very first time I understood this complicated war through the series of very evocative panels that brought a complicated, very political war onto a human level that actually moved me.
I wish I had more experience with graphic novels. I like the idea. I really like the idea. And especially because it has such a connection with young people. And I think we have to find a way to somehow make text appealing to young people. Because if people stop reading at a young age, then I think some kind of link in the chain has been broken.
There's got to be a way to draw readers from the world of visuals. So I think graphic novels have a real role to play, and I think they're really important and will become more so. It has to be comfortable for people who are comfortable in the world of visuals, like video games or television, to sit down with a physical object and immerse themselves in it. And graphic novels, I think, can help do that job.
And it makes reading so magical again for kids from a teaching perspective. So it is becoming an intrinsic part of what we do in our classrooms. I'm fascinated by how it's spilling over into a kind of mainstream readership.
I love the possibilities that can happen when we start thinking outside of just the word on the page. And graphic novels, I think, are an early sort of salvo in all of this.
Graphic novels give you that sense of both the imagination of the story and a way to imagine the story.
It's cinematic, right? I mean, it's kind of like it is a movie for the page, right? It offers you the ability to tell a story with words and pictures. And it allows you to kind of approach both sides of the brain all at once.
We love visuals. We're becoming a very visual society. So when words and text meld with beautiful illustration, it's a win-win situation, I think.
There's always been a desire to see text and image together, and that part fascinates me. I've collaborated with photographers, for instance, and I've written poems for various art exhibitions. So the relationship between a visual image and a word or a poem or a text, I find that fascinating.
My sister's a painter. I'm a writer. some of my best friends are visual artists, and I've just been working on a collaborative project with a painter, Natalka Hussar, and we've been having this tussle, like, what's harder to do? Words or images, you know, what's more immediate, what takes more courage, and what's more demanding, and so I'm kind of really jealous of people who can do both, right?
I would love to write a graphic novel, and if I could draw that well, or if I could find somebody to hook up with, I think they're amazing.
I heard of this chance to write sort of a short graphic novel for a magazine called Kiss Machine, and I knew I had a cousin who was an amazing artist, and so that was just sort of by chance. Like, it was never a genre that I was super, I love sort of, I read everything. Like, I'd read graphic novels, but I wasn't sort of a graphic novel person per se before I got this chance to do this. But now I am a graphic novel person. Like, now I love them. And actually, recently I was at a table with a table of writers, and they called me the comic person. So now it's sort of like I've been sort of pushed into this thing, and, you know, I've responded by throwing my arms around it.
I deal with things with words, and my brother, who has experienced schizophrenia, is an artist, a visual artist, and so expresses the world through pictures. So in the memoir, we decided that we would collaborate. I'm developing that journey in words, and he is illustrating both that journey and the way he sees the world through pictures. And that seemed to me to be a good blending, that we could actually talk back and forth through the different disciplines, and his images could inform me and my words could inform him, and perhaps the two would weave a richer story.
I started, and all the writers I know who are successful started by reading the things they wanted to read. And when they ran out of books like the ones that they enjoyed themselves, they decided the only way to get another one of those to read was to write it themselves. A writer who is mercenary always fails. A writer who is following his or her own vision usually succeeds.